Chapter 12. RC watched as the teenager lying on the ascetic bed quickly succumbed into an uneasy sleep. He was now wearing clean dry clothes, a blue shirt, a black hoodie and gray sweatpants, instead of the former muddy, and bloody, ones. Even while not awake, the youth's face showed the telling signs of pain. It was never easy to see those signs in another being when you could do nothing to ease off the agony. Luckily the wounds appeared to be healing rather rapidly and would not bother the boy for too long. RC sighed. And that took her back to the one topic she knew they would soon have to discuss with Naruto. The monster. If the memory hadn't been so painfully clearly branded into her CPU, she would have thought she'd been dreaming, because the blonde boy in front of him couldn't be the same beast that had nearly attacked them in the woods. But whenever she started to doubt it, the image of the raging monster with red eyes and flaming aura, all in Naruto's body, flashed behind her optics, nearly making her flinch. And every time her optics met with Wheeljack's, she knew the wrecker was thinking about the same thing. Naruto's words had also made the alarm scream in her mind. Did I kill anyone when I was? RC felt her spark grow cold, nearly stopping its steady pulsing. Had the boy, the monster in him, hurt or even killed someone earlier? Could it happen again? At least the kids seemed to be quite shocked with the situation too, so it had hardly been intentional. Mrs. Darby had found some nasty gashes at Naruto's back and neatly treated them too. Naruto had tried to assure that he was fine and that the cuts would be healed in no time, but Mrs. Darby, somehow understanding the boy's meaning despite the language gap, would have none of it. The wounds were swiftly cleaned and disinfected, though they had been already healing. Now the teen was finally allowed to get some rest before the next conversation would occur. And that talk would probably be long and difficult. Mrs. Darby was standing at Naruto's bedside with an unreadable look in her eyes. Will he be all right? Smokescreen asked, eyeing the boy in a concerned way. Jack's mother raised her gaze and walked away from the bed and to the Autobots. Bulkhead was still with the other children, probably attempting to calm Maiko down from her hyperactive state. Yes, he will be fine, June said in clipped tone, her arms tightly crossed. The wounds seem to be healing rapidly. He only needs some rest. She glanced back at the sleeping boy. He's been through so much. Yes, he shouldn't have gotten to that battlefield in the first place, Ratchet agreed. Wheeljack threw him a nasty look. No, I meant he's been through so much all his life. Mrs. Darby snapped, her gaze now blazing with fury as she looked back at them. Did you not hear what he was telling you? About practically being a soldier, about using techniques created to hurt and kill. Well, he is a ninja, Wheeljack began. Well, he shouldn't be. June interrupted. He's a teenager. He shouldn't be worried about getting his arm almost slashed off in some horrible battle. He shouldn't be proudly telling about skills capable of beheading other living beings. June glanced back at the sleeping youth, angry tears glimmering in her eyes. He should not be aware of such things yet, or not ever. RC briefly thought about Naruto's words. Based on them, the boy apparently had quite the fighting skills, in addition to the horrible monster, of course. This made her wonder about how long, exactly, had the teenager been a ninja. Mrs. Darby, you must remember that he is not from around here, Optimus Prime said, looking down at the dark-haired woman standing arms crossed at his feet. Their world is different from yours and ours. We do not know enough to so quickly judge them. But training children to be soldiers? That boy is probably younger than Jack. June shook her head, pursing her lips together tightly before continuing. I'd like to have a word with that teacher of his. Hatake Kakashi seems to be a good man, Ratchet cut into the conversation. He doesn't want to endanger his student without a reason. June let out a scoff. He shouldn't be endangered at all, she said coldly. Then she turned and walked to where Maiko, Jack and Raph were talking enthusiastically. Bulkhead walked back at the same time, passing her. He reached the Autobots and turned back to glance at the departing, almost furiously stomping, June Darby. Everything okay? The green mech asked as he turned back to face the others. Ratchet shortly looked at the hospital bed and its current resident. Could someone now please explain what on Cybertron happened out there? The medic said, his gaze first at Optimus and Smokescreen before settling on RC and Wheeljack. RC frowned and looked Wheeljack in the optics. Shouldn't we wait for the kid to wake up? The wrecker asked slowly, cutting the eye contact with RC in favor of turning to Optimus. But you clearly saw something, Smokescreen said. I mean, the battlefield was a mess. And the kid was just in the middle of it all? And what was that about whether he had killed someone? I had a feeling he wasn't talking about the cons, Bulkhead stated. RC was silent for a moment. Wheeljack still seemed reluctant to speak without Naruto's presence. Wheeljack and I had been fighting with Dreadwing and Sunwave before the Silent One had disappeared, RC began. The wrecker shot her a sharp look. When Dreadwing fled, we heard a roar coming from the woods. Ratchet looked like he wanted to interrupt, but Optimus silenced him with a raised hand and nodded at her to continue. So she did. We ran there, fearing that Naruto and Kakashi were in trouble. When we arrived there, RC halted. She felt Wheeljack's gaze on him before she heard the wrecker continue in an uncharacteristically tired voice. There was this thing in the middle of the battlefield. Trashed offline cons were lying around and Wheeljack shook his head. Man, it was crazy. What was it? RC answered Smokescreen question. It was Naruto, but, well, it really wasn't. What's that supposed to mean? It was like some monster had just taken over. RC snapped harshly, tightening her grip of her own upper arms. His eyes were red, I think he had claws, and there was a strange sort of an aura around him. She let out a weary sigh. He had clearly just wiped out 3 flyers. With his bare hands alone. Silence fell between the bots. So you're saying that he, Ratchet pointed at Naruto's sleeping form, can turn into a beast of some kind? I wouldn't say can, more like turns, Wheeljack said grimly. It didn't really feel like the kid wanted it to happen. Maybe it happens only when he's scared, RC said quietly, as if speaking only to herself. If he feared Kakashi was in danger. It is too early to make assumptions without the facts, Prime said before wild theories would start to fly around. RC couldn't tell what their leader was thinking about this all. We will give Naruto a change to sleep, and then we will see if he can give us some more fact-based answers. We must also create a plan to rescue Hotake Kakashi. We cannot leave him at Megatron's mercy. Ratchet, Optimus turned to face the medic. Monitor the battlefield. It is probable that Megatron will want to recover the bodies of his fallen drones sooner than usual, as we must assume he knows that they were beaten by Kakashi and Naruto. Yes, this time Megatron could actually want back his scrap metal, RC muttered as Ratchet nodded, leaving for the computers. Naruto slowly blinked his eyes open. For a moment he couldn't remember a thing before the happenings of the battlefield all rushed back to him, and he groaned aloud, half in pain, half of the intensity of the onslaught of memories. Wheeljack, flyers, Kakashi-sensei, Kyubai. Sensei. Naruto gasped and shot up to sit on the bed. Whoa, easy. Wheeljack's voice said, and Naruto turned his head to look at the white bot standing at his bedside. There were still quite a many nasty gashes and scrapes on his torso and arms, but at least he seemed to have gotten rid of the mud. How long was I asleep? Naruto croaked and swallowed, trying to get his throat to work. A few hours, not for too long, Ratchet answered, walking to stand beside Wheeljack. A few hours? Naruto yelled. But, we have to save Kakashi-sensei. I have no time to sleep. He started to get up from the bed, but Ratchet made an irritated noise. No, you'll be staying right there. I might not be a human doctor, but I still know better than to let you run around. The medic looked nearly offended that Naruto would have even thought otherwise. The blonde grumbled but stayed in bed. He watched as the rest of the Autobots made their way to stand around the bed. He quickly looked around the base and saw Miko, Jack and Ref and Jack's mother talking on the other side of the room. We told them we wanted to speak with you for a moment, RC explained. Naruto arched his eyebrows. And you got Miko stay away willingly? Whoa. Bulkhead let out a guffaw. She didn't like it, but she'll keep her promise. As long as I keep my end of taking her to the monster truck rally next week. Naruto smiled shortly. Then the smile disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. It would be no use to try to delay the inevitable now. His stomach felt cold and knotted, and there was a nasty taste in his mouth as he swallowed. So, if you want me out from the base, I understand, really. No hard feelings. His statement was met with an incredulous silence. What? Smokescreen let out. Naruto shrugged. No, I mean it. I won't blame you if you want me out after all that. Just let me save Kakashi-sensei first and I'll be on my. What on the onslaught of scriptlets are you going on about? Wheeljack interrupted, his voice bordering angry. That we would throw you out? Just like that? Is that how you see us? Naruto frowned a little and opened his mouth to answer, but Optimus spoke before he could. Naruto, I assure you none of us will want to send you away. And wouldn't you want to tell us what truly happened before making assumptions about our reactions? That's just how everyone sane would react. Naruto muttered under his breath. The Autobot's reaction really surprised him. He looked at RC and Wheeljack, trying to decipher the look in their eyes, searching for fear or anger or disgust. But there were none of those, only something like worry and concern and an honest need for answers. Maybe he had underestimated Team Prime after all. Although they were good guys, he had thought it would have been too much to demand their understanding for something that was so frightening and dangerous even for his own people. And when he had come to from under the influence of the Kyuubi out there in the woods, he had seen the shocked fear in RC's eyes. He had been so afraid he had hurt some of the Autobots. That would have been something he couldn't have forgiven himself, never. Have you already told them about what happened? He asked RC and Wheeljack. Both bots nodded. Naruto drew in a deep breath. Here we go, then. Okay. The thing you saw, it's called the Kyuubi, or the nine-tailed demon fox, or all the variables you can make up from that. He smiled lopsidedly before continuing. Years ago the demon attacked my home village and killed lots of people. The Hokage, our leader, fought the demon and sealed it inside a baby to save the village. And well, you might already guess that the baby was me. He sealed that thing inside you? RC asked, eyes blazing. What kind of a person does that? Hey, he only did what he had to do. Naruto said in indignation. It was the only thing that could save the lives of the villagers, and of all the other villages around us. He sacrificed himself in the process. He was a hero. RC looked away, her mouth a tight line. I didn't know about the Kyuubi until I was 12. Our leader had ordered that no one should speak about it. He feared that the adults would resent me and the kids would do the same. I found about it accidentally. Must have been harsh, Wheeljack grumbled. Yeah. But I was still made Genin, and that meant I got out from the academy and was assigned into a team. That's how I met Kakashi-sensei. But he was getting a little sidetracked now. He was supposed to speak about the demon fox, not dictate his autobiography. So, the demon is sealed inside me and can't get out, but, well, sometimes it kind of does. He frowned a little, thinking how he should approach the matter. First time it happened was during our first proper mission. We had to help this bridge builder to get home safely. We were attacked twice by rogue ninjas, and the second time, for a moment I thought my teammate had died. I was so angry that I just used the Kyuubi's chakra. I wanted to kill that bastard so badly. What happened? RC asked quietly. I came to my senses before that happened and didn't kill him, but... Naruto sighed and continued. It has happened after that too, when I'm really angry. Today, he shook his head, Kakashi-sensei had passed out and I couldn't do any seals cause my arm was useless. And then the cons appeared from nowhere and I was sure they were gonna kill us or worse. So I just lost control. And that's the last thing I remember about that. RC nodded curtly but didn't look judging or angry. They Kyuubi. What does it mean, exactly, when you use its, chakra? Ratchet asked. I have naturally big chakra reserves, but the Kyuubi has multiple times more, Naruto replied. I get really strong and the chakra protects me from some damage. But it's not good to use it, according to Sensei. It's too much for my body to handle. Luckily I snapped out of it quickly enough this time. Bumblebee let out a curious chirp. How did you manage that? Smokescreen translated. I'm not really sure. I just sort of realized Kakashi-sensei was gone and, well, then I was back, he said and shrugged. Apparently the more tails the beast gets, the less I'm in control. There were 3 of them, RC told. The tails, I mean. Naruto nodded. Don't get me wrong but. Bulkhead started slowly. What will we do if that happens again? Kakashi-sensei has a way to stop it. So, that's just one more reason to get him back as soon as possible. Yes, we have already discussed about the rescue of your teacher while you were asleep, Prime said. And? It won't be easy, Ratchet said seriously. He is probably being held on the Nemesis, the Decepticon warship and headquarters. Getting aboard won't be easy. And then we'll have to locate him and get out while staying hidden during the whole thing. The cons are using a cloaking technology to hide it, Wheeljack continued. The ship could be anywhere. And even if we knew where it was we would have to know the exact coordinates to bridge in. Naruto blinked. The tech talk was going a bit over his head. So how do we get in? We will sneak in when the cons return to the battlefield to collect the dead. They will probably want to study the damage you inflicted on them. But you are not going anywhere, young man. Ratchet's voice was firm and had a universal doctor tone of no nonsense allowed in it. Naruto's temper flared and his blue eyes narrowed. He's my teacher and it's my fault he's out there, in the claws of the cons. So you cannot stop me from joining the rescue team. Ratchet sputtered in indignation. You have just started to recover. You can't go running around the Nemesis. You'll get killed in no time. The Kyuubi's chakra allows me to heal a lot faster than normally, Naruto countered fiercely. The rate might be slower here in this dimension but I'll still soon be fine and then there'll be no reason for me to stay behind. He straightened his back and forced down the winds that threatened to surface. I'll come with you whether you want to or not. Give him some credit, Doc, Wheeljack said with a shadow of a smile. The kid's quite a fighter. And look what happened when you allowed him to follow you to the battlefield. These battles are not for him to fight. The medic retaliated. Naruto groaned mentally. Seriously, most of the Autobots seemed to be certain he was just a kid, despite everything he had just told them. I can stand my ground, he said determinedly. And what about your chakra reserves? Naruto was actually quite impressed by Ratchet's ability to catch the core of his earlier explanations so easily. You passed out. Practically twice. How can you fight if you're not recovered? I have loads of chakra, much more than Sensei. I haven't used it all yet and in a few hours I'll be good to go. He flashed them a grin. It was time for his ace up in the sleeve. And when we're aboard that Nemesis thing, I'll be able to locate him at once. You can do that? Smokescreen asked, impressed. Naruto nodded. There are ninjas called sensors back home, they can detect people from very great distances if they're good at what they do. Everyone has their own chakra signature. If I get close enough I could spot Kakashi-sensei and we'd be there in no time. So are you a sensor then? Ratchet's voice was skeptical. Well, not really. But it's different in here, you know. You, humans or robots, have no chakra. Back home I wouldn't be able to find Sensei because there are chakra signatures everywhere. But here it's like finding a spotlight in an otherwise pitch black room. I know I can do it. Or at least he thought he could do it. Possibly. Probably. Maybe. Damn. But this was for Kakashi-sensei. It was not about whether he could do it or not, because there was no other option. If he's right, we could head straight for the little man. It would mean a lot less time spent on the enemy territory, Wheeljack mused. What do you say, Prime? Naruto could not read the Autobot leader's face about the matter. Man, his poker face is flawless. Are you certain you will be able to locate your teacher? Prime asked after a short silence. Naruto nodded. I must get him back. I know I can do it if I'll try hard enough. Optimus, with all due respect, you can't seriously consider letting him out there again, Ratchet tried. The medic glanced at Naruto with an apologetic look in his blue eyes. It will do Kakashi no good if you get yourself killed while rushing to save him. Naruto sighed. Ratchet was only worried, he knew, but it was still annoying. I know I made a mistake when I followed Wheeljack, okay? So it is my fault Sensei got captured. I just want to help to get him back. If you get me aboard that ship, I'll locate Kakashi Sensei and then we get out. Simple enough. It's never that simple, RC snorted. But I think you have a point. If I went with him, we could sneak in when the cons were bridging back. And what if you get caught? We won't, Naruto said resolutely. You cannot know that. Ratchet, calm down, Optimus interrupted before the argument could be continued. Naruto held his breath, he knew the Autobot leader would have the final word in this. Though I would not like to put him on harm's way, due to the grave circumstances I fear there is no other alternative. We cannot afford to ignore Naruto's potential help in this task. RC, Prime turned to face the blue female. There can only be the two of you in order to keep low profile. You must keep him safe. I'll do my best and more, RC told him with a salute. Though Naruto inwardly bristled at that he really couldn't be annoyed, they were going to save Kakashi Sensei, after all. He could handle some coddling to get to go with the rescue team. Ratchet, have there been any activity around the battlefield? Prime asked. Negative. Ratchet shook his head, his eyes grim and a little resigned. The medic glanced at the silent computer screens. There has been neither bridge activity nor Decepticon signals coming from the woods or the old Energon mine. They haven't yet returned. But you are sure they'll come back? Naruto was slightly skeptical. If Team Prime was wrong, they would be just wasting their time and Kakashi Sensei would have to pay the price. Yeah, they'll be there, Bulkhead grumbled. I don't think Knockout will pass the opportunity to get those sparkless shells under his microscope. He would just have to trust them, then. The Autobots had already trusted him a great deal. The least he could do was to return the favor. Sensei, he thought as he lied back on the hospital bed. We'll be there soon. Just hang on. So, Jack started as they sat on the couch, all eyeing the Autobots talking to Naruto on the other side of the room. What the heck was that? That, Jack, was the sweetest thing ever since the robots from outer space. Maiko declared, punching the air before slumping back to the couch. Jack frowned at her. I mean, the girl said excitedly, jumping off the sofa to stand before him and Raph, who was too sitting on the couch, legs crossed. Come on. Didn't you hear what he was saying? About all those cool ninja skills? You think he'll show us when he gets better? They sounded dangerous though, Raph said, leaning his head on his hands. Despite her enthusiasm, Maiko had translated the whole conversation to the boys and Jack had to agree with Raph. They had sounded dangerous. So are Autobots if you start to think about it. They are good guys, Maiko replied, throwing herself back on the sofa. Jack glanced at his mother, who stood by the railing, arms crossed and eyes trained on the Autobots and Naruto. He knew something was bothering her and he had heard her arguing with the Autobots, probably about Naruto. He hoped she didn't think Naruto was in any way a danger to them. Though the ninja's skills sounded dangerous, Naruto was still a friend. Do you think Kakashi is alright? Raphael asked, looking worried. Jack grimaced and turned back to his friends. He remembered when the cons had captured Fowler. Kakashi had seemed to be a rather tough fellow and he hoped he could endure whatever the Decepticons were putting him through. Don't worry Raph, they'll save him in no time, Maiko assured, though there was a glint of concern in her eyes too, lurking behind the determination. And maybe he can, escape, Jack reasoned. I mean, according to Naruto he's a great ninja. Yeah, Raph said, trying to smile. Then the three teenagers succumbed into silence as they started to wait for the situation to change. Jack sighed. He hated waiting. His vision was blurred, the illuminated patch of gray floor swimming in and out from focus. He blinked his eye tiredly, and after a moment managing to raise his head. He was alone. Silence was simultaneously oppressive and relieving. It meant there were no Decepticons there in the dark. It meant that he was truly alone and could use this moment of peace to rest and perhaps plan his escape. He tried to get his mind to work, his thoughts sluggish from the pain. Megatron had kept his word. The next time he had woken up, the Decepticon leader had been there with a nice little device of torture with him. His skin and muscles still burned and ached from where he'd been electrocuted. He had lost consciousness after what had felt like an eternity, but without saying the word. Megatron would get nothing out of him. The Decepticon leader had over and over again questioned him about how they had got here, what had been that lighting sound Wave had seen him use, how their powers worked, what Naruto was. He had given him nothing. No, he was apparently allowed to have a small moment of respite, probably so they wouldn't accidentally kill him. How merciful. He forced his mind out from repeating the torture, forced himself to observe his surroundings and once more make sure he truly was left alone. He cursed his weak state. If he had been stronger, then maybe he would have been able to get something of use from his vest or a kunai from the holster. But every movement brought more pain and he was still unable to reach his vest. He moved his legs a bit, they were left untied, but there was no way he could reach the holster either. He growled in frustration. He tried to turn his hand so he could grip the chain closest to it, but it was no use. It was too far and he couldn't twist his arm enough to grab it. If he'd been stronger he might have been able to do something, anything to aid his escape, but for now he had to admit he was too weak. So he momentarily resigned to his fate. He closed his eye and lowered his head. If he couldn't escape for now, he should use the time given to gather his strength. He let the meditative peace wash over him, blocking away the pain from his mind. No use to wallow in pain and desperation. He drew in a deep breath and concentrated on his chakra reserves. They were still practically non-existent, as was his physical strength. He hung there, barely moving, eyes closed. He didn't know for how long. Well, that's the ending of that chapter. I do hope you enjoy this video. If you like to see more, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel and leave a comment down below. Until next time.